First things first, the mug of the day. Okay. What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aisha. I'm a full-time photographer with over 10 years experience, and I make videos based on photography and lifestyle. If you're new here, hey, what's up? Subscribe. And if you're not, welcome back. Today's video, we are going to be speaking about the exposure triangle. Now, I did touch on the exposure triangle in my video last week, which I will link down below. If you're interested in church photography, that video is really good for you to watch. Now, for this video, we're really going to focus on the fundamentals of photography, but one thing first we have to touch on is the exposure triangle. People always ask this question: what is the exposure triangle? The exposure triangle is made up of three key elements that control how bright or how dark your photo comes out. I would consider it like a dance between light and dark. Jumping right into it, the first thing that you're going to learn about is the aperture. How wide or how narrow your lens opens. The best way to explain aperture would be to consider it like your eyes. If you look outside and you look into the sky, or if someone flashes a light into your eye, what does your pupil do? It contracts, right? So consider your aperture the same way. The aperture is responsible for how much light it allows in or out of the lens. Another word for aperture is going to be f-stop. Your f-stop can vary between a 1.2 and it can go all the way up past f11. The lower the number of your f-stop, the more shallow depth of field. If you don't understand what that means, the lower the f-stop, the more bokeh, which is a very common term, more blurry your background will be. And the foreground will be crisp and almost as if you could peel it right off the screen. When your f-stop is low, like a 1.8, your lens is allowing more light into the camera. People really love a low f-stop lens. I mean, it's pretty much the cream of the crop, right? So the more light you allow in, the more dreamy your images will become. Now, a higher f-stop or a smaller aperture, which would be like f11 or something along those lines, f22, f16, it allows less light in. It brings more of the scene in focus and not just the subject. This is probably really good for those mountain scenes that we see, like landscape photography, where we see a lot of what's going on in the background and the foreground of an image. The second key element we have is going to be our shutter speed. Now, I've considered the aperture to be like the eye. Consider the shutter speed to be like the blink. Shutter speed is how fast or how slow your camera blinks to take a photo, or shutters. The faster your shutter speed, the more likely you're going to be able to freeze action shots. These are great for worship in church, great for NASCAR races, great for your kids playing sports. Any of these things, it's going to be so much easier and so much better the higher your shutter speed. You don't want a low shutter speed and a fast moving subject because the photo is just going to come out extremely blurry. And this is not to say low shutter speed is not essential. Low shutter speed blurs motion. This is really great for creative portraits. It's excellent for when you're capturing fabric flowing or movement to a certain extent. I know you've been seeing photos like this pop up all over the internet. These are done with slow shutter speed. But keep in mind that if your shutter speed is too low, the photo may be blurry if your camera is not on a tripod. Those photos are called long exposure photos. Those are the photos that we see where the cars are moving around and it looks like the cars are just in a continuous line, just like this. The image was captured while the camera was on a tripod and the shutter speed was extremely slow. The last key element that you're going to need is going to be your ISO. ISO. Consider that the light booster. Your ISO is how sensitive your camera is to light. Think of it like turning up the brightness on your screen. If you do that, what happens to the picture? It's either going to be too bright, but if you turn it down, it can be too dark. So you really want to find the perfect balance between cranking up your ISO and all of the other elements so that they all work together like a musical band. A good tip for ISO is to always keep your ISO as low as possible while still getting a good bright image. As you have your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO, you want to make sure you put them all together to make the most beautiful band, one sound, and it's going to create some of the most fabulous images you ever had. So instead of shooting on auto, you can now shoot on manual. My best advice is to go outside and actually practice this in natural light. Then you will have a better understanding when it's time for you to use it with continuous light or with strobe lights. We'll get into another time because that's a whole nother area. Also, by knowing these, you'll be able to control the way your images look. You'll be able to sit down and know exactly what you're going for, what you like and dislike, and have control and know how to fix it. This is why it's so good to know the exposure triangle. Remember that you're telling a story. So just get the settings however you need them to be in order to tell your story properly to the audience that you want it to get across to. If this video helped you in any way, let me know down in the comments. That's all I got for you guys. Take care, and don't forget to get out there and go learn your camera so that you can take some of the best images the world needs to see. See ya. Peace.